Whoever says that gardening doesn't cost money is lying through his teeth. You can lessen the cost, yes, but you still have to constantly buy garden stuff if you want to prepare a nice garden. And that can easily accumulate to hundreds or thousands of Norwegian kroner. How and why? You'll find out in a while. Welcome to my channel, Juana in Norway! There are many that buy terracotta pots, wooden plant cases, and garden decorations, aside from various types of garden soil, several tools, and different kinds of fertilizer. But here on my vlog about gardening in Norway, my focus is mainly on flowers and some vegetables. What kind of flowering plants do we often buy? Why do we buy a lot of annuals, the short-lived ones, even if it costs a whole lot of money, and we know that we can only enjoy them for a couple of months? Would you like to know some of the perennials that are suitable in the Trøndelag region? Is it possible to have a vegetable garden too, even if you don't have big space? And lastly, how much do some plants cost, and the average sum when one buys from a local garden center or online plant shop? On my first and second year in Norway, I did not start with gardening right away. My husband and I just bought flowers in pots that are ready for display. It was just to arrange everywhere outside the house. Then I realized that it was like wasting money whenever you throw the dead plants when the planting season is over. We don't have a greenhouse, so there is no way to save the flowering plants to bring out again for next year's use. You can bring some inside when the frost comes, but not all survive. The condition in a very cold land is just different. From the third year onwards, I started to buy a little more indoor plants and a couple of outdoor plants that are perennials. Slowly, I started researching on what flowering plants are suitable in our area. I started jotting down notes about the plants I buy because it is not easy to remember the names, characteristics, and the zones. I found out that our climate zone, klimasone or Hardiness in Norwegian, is H4, but the perennials should be hardy from H5 at least. Perennials that are labeled H3 do not survive in mid-Norway, or at least to my city. And sometimes, even plants that are marked H4 do not survive as well. So, I don't believe anymore what is written in the label from the store sellers. I just have to try it myself and wait for another year to see the progress of the plant. I had some perennials that were okay for 2 consecutive years, but on the third year, it did not show up anymore. Up to now, year 2021, it is still a hit and miss in my garden. There is so much to learn about the Scandinavian flora. Plants that are popular in summer are usually the colorful blooming ones that add life to the scenery. But there are also green plants like hanging plants or spillers that can accentuate an arrangement in a container if you don't want it solo in a small pot. Here are the other common summer flowers that I arranged this year. I wanted to add more, but due to limited space and time, I could only put a few here. Let's have a quick tour to the garden of my friend Zina from Moldova, and also to the garden of another friend, Fides, who is originally from the Philippines, but residing in Norway for 27 years now. A week before, I also visited the garden of Natalia, my friend from Ukraine, who has been working in Norway for 7 years. She gave me root cuttings of some of her hardy perennials that I still do not have in my garden. However, I forgot to take pictures. Anyway, you will see her with Zina in the video because we are all neighbors.
Jaha. Nej, lilla bara. Vad har du plantat, Zina?
Den busker fra hjemlandet.
Hjemlandet ditt, från Moldova?
Nei, vi ikke fra Russland.
Oj, från Ryssland. Hey, hey.
Hello. My name is Fides Vivstad.
Okay.
Live in Norway.
Yes.
I have 2 kids.
Aha.
Living here now in about 27 years.
Wow.
And I like gardening.
Yes.
Uh,
You have a beautiful garden.
I love flowers. I like the colors. And
Is it expensive to have a garden in Norway?
some plants. Yes, once a little bit.
What is that?
It is the beans.
Mm-hmm.
Baggy beans, no.
In the Philippines, it's Baguio beans.
Baggy beans, yes.
Yeah.
Little bit late.
Okay.
But I know next time.
You know what to do next time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why do we buy a lot of annuals even if it costs a whole lot of money? The main reason is, well, the climate in Scandinavia. It is mostly evergreen bushes and the Nordic trees that stand out in the coldest and darkest months. That is why we want vibrant colors outside come springtime. Buying from the nurseries for fast display of daffodils, primulas, crocuses, and hyacinths as early as March, if we are impatient. The plant bulbs that we set in autumn will grow much later in April or May. By June, most Norwegians have already filled up their gardens with colorful flowers, whether it came from seeds started indoors or from seedlings bought early from the garden centers. The local shops continue to sell outdoor plants until August. But when it gets chilly in September, people start buying the indoor varieties. The houses light up inside in winter with amaryllis, kalanchoe, cyclamen, poinsettia, and hellebore, or what we call Eule rusa, which is Christmas rose in English. By the way, we all know now that there is an incredible increase in sales in anything about gardening from last year to this year because of the coronavirus situation. Online plant shops have boomed for the demands in seeds, bulbs, corms, tubers, and root cuttings. Even in Norway, where almost everything is expensive, I have noticed that the garden centers are never empty of customers. This plant and flower chain store was in the news because 80 potted terrace palm plants were sold in only a few hours in one day. To think that prices have doubled since last year. Norwegians must have gone mad. Luckily, since our zone or climasone is H4 to H5, there are many plants that thrive in our region. But like I said earlier, it is also trial and error sometimes if the winter is really harsh. Now I have learned to prioritize plants that are hardiest, just to be sure. I am choosing the varieties that can manage up to H7 to H8 zones. You can see in the picture most of the toughest flowering plants you can enjoy year after year no matter what. I listed them down in their botanical or scientific names, hoping that it would be easier for you to research the equivalent name in your own country. It is also recommended that you keep the tags so that you can always check the plant names and the flowering period when needed. Big yes! You can have your own little vegetable nook if you want to. Some people mix it with the annual and perennial flowers, but I think it is better if you have a separate location just for your organic veggies. It can be just in containers or even terracotta pots, like what I did in my garden. You can use your terrace for some edible greens, for example, parsley, oregano, or basil, aside from the usual salad leaves. In my garden, I am using a wooden container for my small veggies, but if you want to have root crops such as radish, red beet, or potatoes, then it is best to have an allotted space just for them. We managed to plant 18 potatoes in May. I tell you, it is always a delight when it's harvest time. It is not only garden plants that Norwegians are mad about now more than ever. In fact, according to an online article in Science Norway, the interest in growing their own food has increased tremendously. We are on the tail end of this vlog now, and for those who have recently settled in Norway, I hope the cost of having a garden will not discourage you to add extra plant here and there. After all, the inner joy is guaranteed whenever you look at your blooming haven, particularly when there is still pandemic and uncertainty in foreign traveling. Never mind if one hortensia costs from 159 kroner to sometimes over 200, or some small plants vary from 28 to 49 kroner, depending on where you will buy it. The price for fruit trees and flowering shrubs or bushes is always higher, and the bigger the size, the more expensive it can be. Do you rather invest more on fruit trees? Do you like the small flowering plants instead? Maybe shrubs suit better? Those things, plus the tools needed, are something you need to consider when you get serious with gardening. Now it's time to show you guys what I have computed, after remembering that I have kept most of the official receipts in a cabinet. Just to be clear, I only started collecting the receipts in 2018 from our local stores and a little from online, because that was the year that I really focused on trying several perennial plants and buying garden pots. I didn't care about recording the purchases, nor did I keep the receipts from 2014 to 2017. This year shows the least amount of plant shopping, both in perennial and annual plants, because I have already established the plants that I really like to have in our garden in the previous years. Still, I was surprised myself how much I've spent already. Wait for it. Yes, it totaled to 39,700 kroner. The average sum for me when shopping back in 2018 and 2019 is around 500 to 1,000 kroner. For 2020 and 2021, it is lower and less frequent. Let's say 500 kroner and below per visit to the flower stores. I prefer buying the cut flower types. That means flowering plants that can last for days in the vase. Aside from helping the bees by having so many flowering species in the garden, isn't it nice to have your own flower arrangements as well, hand-picked from your own oasis? You can save money from not buying bouquets from your local stores by being your own florist. So, in the long run, it is not going to be that expensive anymore to do gardening in Norway. What about in your own garden? Have you encountered the same issues on expenses? Or the types of plants you want to have? Are you a better gardener now or just a beginner? Remember, there is always something to learn. Thank you so much for watching, my dear co-YouTubers. As usual, I'm going to leave here my 6-word summary. Norwegians just become madder in gardening. Till next time, Show some love, like, and subscribe.